Morning! Welcome to day one of the Paranormal Love in the Night Readathon blog. As of recording, it's actually Sunday, October 5th, so the readathon hasn't started just yet. But my goal here is to be a little bit more vloggy than normal, so I wanted to talk about all the stuff I have to get done so I'm ready for this readathon blog, and I also want to talk to you about books I'm planning to read. So obviously I'm going to read the group book Tenant, and then I want to read another 3 or 4 books on top of that. It would be bonus if there were more, but I want to minimally get to that many. Number 2 on the list is going to be Cold-Blooded Alpha by Bale. I think I've read Bale before. I'm gonna double check that, and if so, I'll put a link to a video where I review it over here or here, just depending. The reason I want to read this book is because Heather over at Hia Booktubes read it in the spring for Love in the Night Paranormal Readathon, and she said that Kate C. Wells rated it 5 stars. And even though I've decided to move on past the 5-pack series, I did have a lot of fun with it when I was still reading it. So I want to pick this one up just because I think it'll be similar and maybe give me a similar enjoyment. I've also got Alpha by Audrey Fay on the list. This is another one Heather over at Hia Booktubes read in the spring. I like Werewolf Shifter. I'm really interested in getting a lot of those in, so it's just on the list. And then I want to call out The Crownless King by Drea Anderson, which is actually supposed to release on the 10th of this month. And if that's the case, even though I've been kind of mixed on Drea Anderson reads, I want to get this one in just so I give her like another chance. Especially because this one is supposed to be the South USA series, and I live in the Southern USA, so I think it would be appropriate. And then I also have a ton of free ebooks, and I want to get through at least 2 of those. I'm starting with my oldest ones and going to my newer ones, so that's going to be Fae Touched by Erin Zarra. It's got a note right on the first page summary that it's been newly reformatted to fix some issues, so I'm sort of excited about that. I've never actually read the book, but I'm quite curious to see what the formatting and editing looks like when I get into it. And also Dark Deception, a vampire romance, which I read the first chapter of in my Triad chapter, and I feel like it's owed a chance here. Of course, with these kind of reading challenges, there's never really any pressure to read something specific. So if I start with these and I don't like them, I have a couple more on the list. First of all, I've got like over 1,000 free ebooks, and I'm sure like half of them qualify as paranormal romance. So I can always zoom through those and pick out more titles. But also between Heather from Hia Booktubes and Izzy from Happy for Now, I've got a couple other books that have been recommended, like The Lives of Vampires and Slayers by K.M. Shea. And this just sounds fun because I'd love for like a vampire slayer relationship. I've also got I'll Come Back for You by Cherish Reed. This just looks like a fun witchy read, and I'd be really into it. The Poisoner by I.V. Ophelia. I love the name of this one, and the cover is stunning, so I'm just really interested in where that goes. A Wolf Scorned, a Rejected Mate romance by Taylor Spratt. Wrecked, a Wolf Paranormal Shifter romance and it's book 1 in the Shadow Sentinels book by Karen Tomlin. So if I pick that one up and it's good, I can really see myself just cruising through a whole series. Fated to the Wolf Prince by April L. Moon. Devoted to the Dragon by Serena Song. Mine by Neeson. Way of the Wolf by Lindsay Broker. Anthema by Carrie Lake. So I have tried this before and not really been successful on it, but I want to pick it up again because I really like Carrie Lake, and I'm seeing that this specific book is getting a lot of reviews and pickup around Book Talk. I think it's actually trending in the top 100 books of Gothic reads, and I'm curious to see why people find it Gothic and if I agree or disagree with that. I've also got Spellcaster by Jamin Eve on the list. I did recently read a Paranormal Werewolf Shifter romance by Jamin Eve, and I'll put the video where I review those books over here. I do just think that she has a fun, quirky kind of style. The first book almost always works, and then it goes downhill from there, but I am always rooting for her because it's very clear from book 1 she has a plan of what she's doing and where she's going, and I want it to succeed. I'm rooting for her the whole time. Then we've got Misfit Monsters by Eva Chase. It's been a while since I've come back to the well of Eva Chase, and this book 1 looks like it might be a fun place for me to just check in and see where she's at. Dead to the World by Annabelle Chase. I just like a necromancer story, and I want to read one that works for me, which also includes Whispers of the Dead by Adeline Winters. So I'm definitely not getting to all of these. If I like what I'm reading, I'm probably not getting to anything except for the first 5 books I mentioned, but I do have a ton of backups. I have come in hyper prepared for this. And then on the film and video side of things, today, if I really want to start this readathon off with a bang on Monday, I need to edit a video and have that ready to go. So I'm gonna let you guys go and check in with you, I guess, on Monday to see how it went. Hey guys, I'm coming to you actually on day 2 of Love in the Night Paranormal Readathon. on. I know I started this vlog off on Sunday trying to like get ahead of a couple things so I could just jump right in on Monday. But the weather was beautiful and we could not stay indoors, so me and my husband and the puppies went out for a walk, and getting them in the car, taking them on the walk, coming back all takes a lot of time. I took some pictures of us in the car together, and I think I tried to take some video, so if any of that came out, you'll probably be seeing it right now. Hey, hi Willow, come over here. Come on. But that meant that yesterday I was playing catch up on my editing and my plan work a little bit, so I didn't get to start the Tenant like I had initially planned. I was able to listen to some books while I was working though. In late September, Amazon Original Stories has come out with a bunch of paranormal romances specifically for Halloween time. So I listened to Ali Hazelwood's Hot for the Slayer, which was my first Ali Hazelwood. I'd been really interested in Bride even though it had mixed reviews, so it was fun to get a little taste of something by her in this Kindle Unlimited collection. The TLDR is that I didn't like it. It's got like this sort of funny, irreverent tone to it, which is common in a lot of paranormal romances, but I really do feel like there's a fine line between being a knowledgeable, funny paranormal romance where you're familiar with the tropes and how ludicrous it is, you're kind of poking fun and kikiing along with the reader, and someone who is not familiar with paranormal romance sees the whole thing as ridiculous and is kind of like just taking the piss out of something I like. And this one felt like the latter. I don't know if Ali Hazelwood reads a lot of paranormal romances, like that would be a huge assumption on my part. I know that she's not super familiar with writing the genre, so even if she has like that familiarity with it in general, maybe she's just not quite up to par with the writing part. I think like the characters were okay. There were some issues, but they had fine chemistry. I think their backstories are really compelling and interesting, and there was enough mirroring going on between the two of them where I understood why they would be a couple. I do have a lot going on today. This is the last day I'll be filming with this hair because I'm gonna go get a haircut, which will be a major makeover later in the day, and I'm gonna try and take you guys with me a little bit on that journey. You will still see a ton of videos with me in the normal hair because I have a backlog that I'm trying to get out, and I've sort of decided to change my original posting plans to like push those out first and then have like more continuity on the channel by doing things where I have the new haircut afterwards. It's also going to be really interesting because I've got this puppy right here and she cares a lot about when you change even the littlest thing in a room. So it's going to be crazy for me to walk out looking like this and come in looking like a different person to see if she recognizes me or how she responds to all that. The Tenant is the group book for the Love in the Night Paranormal Readathon, and the live discussion of it is actually going to be on the 10th. So I do want to read that first and get through it so I'm ready for the 10th. I was really hoping I'd be able to set this dog bed out outside on my porch and do some filming there, but unfortunately it's kind of like an overcast rainy day, which I guess is good for the spookiness vibes here with the fire in the background, but not so great for my attempt to get a little bit more sunshine before winter. But I'm gonna let you guys go, start reading, and I will update you after the first chapter. Alright, so I just finished chapter 1 and I'm really loving it so far. For starters, our main character Noel is a man, and I haven't read a romance with a man as a lead in almost forever, I want to say. Like, except for specifically like a gay romance, which maybe this is, I don't know. I went in totally blind just knowing it was the group read. That they went to college and got a liberal arts degree and I went to a liberal arts college and got an English degree. I feel like we're kindred spirits. The fact that he's a manager at a burger joint and I went into food service right after college, because even though a liberal arts education is really valuable and it taught me a lot, and in my later years now I'm very grateful for it and I think it helps me a lot, it definitely does not help you get a job. The skill set I have is valuable, but it is one that is kind of hard for you to translate into an applicable work skill set in a way like an engineering degree is not. Also, we're going to Louisiana, which I've only really driven through, but I have some familiarity just driving through that state, what it looks like and how it compares to like other parts of the South, because I've been living in Alabama for the past couple of years. And I have some experience with like revitalization of historic buildings and that process because I grew up in New England, and keeping little towns historic looking and authentic to how they originally were way back when was a big priority at the time I was growing up. So I don't know, I feel like this premise really vibes with me. The character is really enjoyable, and like this is a whole premise I could really get into. So I am so excited to pick up more. Right now we're sitting at like a 5 out of 5 and I'm really hopeful about where we go from here. I'm at chapter 6 and about 27% of the way through. We finally got to the house. I spent a minute looking up Alexandria, Louisiana. It is a real place and it looks super cute. I do imagine it probably is gentrified slash revitalized, whatever the difference is there. We also met the ghost. Her name is Ruby and she seems to have an issue with Noelle's father's line, the Delices. I'm guessing they had involvement in her death or potentially they like left her at the altar or something, but either way she's also noticing that Noelle himself is attractive. So I guess we're getting a ghost human romance, which I don't think I've read before outside of like a novella short. So I am a little curious to see how we do that because it seems like The Living and the Dead are not made for a happily ever after romance style. Like they could have a love story, but I would think it would end tragically. I'm really hoping Noelle doesn't die. Like if the solution is Noelle dying, then I'm out. Okay, I am at 36%, not much farther than when I last updated you guys, but a couple cool things have happened. First, we got a little flashback from Ruby's point of view when she was alive, and I really like her. Brave and she's fearless, and I'm already afraid for like how she died. Also, I'm thinking maybe her and Esther weren't just friends, they were in a relationship, and I kind of love that, like just one more sapphic romance to add to my docket, even though I know now we're probably going into like a Ruby-Noelle relationship. And then we get to the part where Noelle is moving into the house. His neighbor Todd is like oddly friendly and excited for him to move in here, so I'm thinking that character is going to play a role later. But after he leaves, Noelle goes to clean the bathroom and he uses bleach water and Windex, and guys, alarm bells are ringing because bleach and Windex have a chemical reaction that is toxic. Do not do this. My great-great-grandma damaged her sight and her hearing by using bleach and Windex together in an enclosed bathroom. She's lucky someone found her before the worst had happened, but she had passed out as a result from like that chemical reaction and had permanent damage as a result. I don't know, just throwing those 2 cents out there for anyone who's wondering. I haven't really given the story a chance to talk about it, so it's possible that we're about to see this guy have a chemical reaction. He did open the windows before starting this, so maybe he feels the area is well enough ventilated. Perhaps he's going to see the ghost and chalk it up to the chemical reaction here. Like there are good reasons to do this, and I haven't given the book breathing space to actually build on that. At the same time, PSA to anyone who ever watches this and does any kind of cleaning, bleach and Windex is not the combo you want to do for any reason at any time, even in a ventilated space. In today's day and age with so many different cleaners, there's no good reason to let this happen. Ta-da! New haircut. I am a little bit of a terrible vlogger, but in my defense, it's not entirely my fault. My stylist called and said she could get me early, and I sort of had to rush over there so I could get this done a little bit sooner. For anyone who's never done a vivid hair color before, while it's very exciting to do it, it's also a very long, drawn-out process. So if they can get you in earlier, jump on in and do what you gotta do so that they can get it done. We're currently day 2 inside because outdoors it looks like Silent Hill right now, and we're gonna go ahead and get back to reading Tenant. I didn't get much farther after I updated you guys because I had myself a lunch and then I got that call, and when you're doing hair stuff, usually you sit and you talk to the person, you don't just sit down and read and ignore them. It's just like basic politeness. But I am definitely all talked out now and ready to get back into reading. Alright, so I hit 55% of the way through. I think around the 40% mark we got our first steamy scene, and it's like a wet dream sort of situation, which makes sense for like a human ghost romance. Noelle doesn't have any memories of like what specifically the dream was about, although for the first time while he's in the shower he catches a glimpse of the ghost, and it's very clear that he and the ghost can interact, like they can sense and feel each other and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's going to become part of the like romantic element. On the flip side, we just got like a little history lecture via Lauren on the house, and I'm low-key hoping that actually Noelle and Lauren get together and maybe Ruby Ghost does like a consensual possession ghost thing one time, and then after that she like finds peace or whatever and drifts on her way. Because we also get a little bit more backstory about Ruby, and while it seems like her and the pastor Delise were antagonistic, it also seems like they might have been flirting with each other. So assuming the Delices didn't kill her. I'm hoping like she moves on to the next life or whatever, gets her whatever she needs to do that, and then we keep with human people, because I still just can't imagine like a ghost human relationship ending with a happily ever after. I'm open to that happening too, but I can't picture how it would happen, so that's why I'm sort of like pairing Noelle up with living people. Still having a great time. I think the dialogue is so much fun with this. I love all of the characters. I know that Noelle doesn't like Todd or trust him, but I can't help but take a shine to him. I think Todd is so well-meaning, and I hope that he's not the secret villain, even though like his over interest in the Randall house and like getting into the house and checking up on Noelle all kind of smacks of him being a bad guy or like trying to dispose of a family secret in some way, shape, or form. We don't know Todd's last names, and we don't know his history with this area, so that's a real concern. Anyways, I want to go back to reading. I'll come back to you when we're 75% of the way through. Small scenery change because the Roomba's going inside right now, but I am about 75% through this story. Finally got around to reading Aunt Sophie's letter. And I think it's pretty clear now that Noelle is gonna have to hook up with Ruby and just like keep her happy forever to live in this home. The good news here is I don't think Pastor DeLisi ended up killing her. She disappeared during a hurricane, so she could have died of natural causes, or it could have been like one of the Randalls going after her. And no matter how you slice that, I think that's better than it being like a grudge specifically against the DeLisis. I'm still tentatively hopeful that maybe we solve the mystery of Ruby's disappearances and she's no longer just like a wandering ghost haunting the place, so she goes off to the ether for her happily ever after, and maybe Noelle and Lauren hook up. It's a paranormal romance. I really should be rooting for this ghost human relationship, but I still can't square how that's gonna work out. There have been a couple of steamy scenes at this juncture. It's clear the two of them have chemistry and find one another attractive, but as someone who's been married 9 years to the day today, I have to say there's a lot more than just like good chemistry and maybe even a romantic connection that goes into marriage. There's like a whole living out in the world kind of element to a healthy relationship. You know, if no one else can see Ruby or interact with her, I just don't think this is a long-term good healthy fit for Noelle. I don't know, I'm fine if the story proves me wrong, but like as far as a happily ever after goes, they're gonna have to show me that Noelle and Ruby together is not just good for Ruby, but good for Noelle too. Alright, so I just finished up the Tenant. I think it has a cute wrap up, and it went the way I wanted it to, with Noelle reaching out to Nina, not Lauren. Sorry I mixed those up. I think Lauren was like the white lady who introduced Nina to the group before she did the actual history speaking. But Noelle hooks up with Nina and they all consent to like having a threesome, and Nina is like a freaky fanfic kind of girl, so I'm a huge fan of her. I love that she is like adventurous and fun and playful, even though we don't get confirmation that she's gonna be more than just like a casual fun third in the relationship. I see potential for them to like build a life together, the three of them, and for Noelle to have like that intimacy with Ruby and Nina, but also to have like that outer world partner with Nina. And that balance gives me more hope in the happily ever after of it all. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it tackles a couple of difficult subjects in like a sort of lighter way, like acknowledging the reality of slavery in American times, the sort of cruelty and discrimination that happened, but not in a way that felt oppressive, more in a way that's just acknowledging facts, giving us space to like mourn and see what that is, but also moving us into present day where there can be like some reconciliation and some like moving past and living our lives in present times as well. I'm not sure if I'm gonna give it 4 or 5 stars right now. I'm kind of on the fence about it, but like as far as a ghost human paranormal relationship goes, I think it gave me everything I wanted. I can't wait to listen to like the live video on it this Thursday. As far as what I'm gonna read next, it's gonna be the Werewolf Shifter book that Kate C. Wells gave 5 stars. I don't remember the title of it or the author right now, but I'll put a picture over here of it. I will make sure to shout it out when I get to the 25% mark. Haven't started reading yet, but I wanted to update you guys. The book is called Cold-Blooded Alpha, and it's by Bale. And I actually have read 2 series from her before. for. First was the Rejected Mate series, which I liked book 1 and 2 of a lot. I had some questions about the cover because it sort of implied that our main character was not white, and then it seemed like maybe she actually was white. But they've changed the cover since then, so I can't keep harping on that. And then the second series I read was Silent Mate, which I love the concept of like a hurt comfort sort of story. So if you tell me that a character has been like taught to be quiet as like a form of protection, and then this person's gonna come along, save them, and like slowly teach them out of this silent treatment, I'm down. But unfortunately, I just always find the execution lacking, which might correlate to the fact that this is actually just a problematic premise on its face, and I need to acknowledge there's no chance in the world it ever works. As a result of reading these two series previously, I am more hyped than ever to get into Cold-Blooded Alpha and see what's going on. Also, I just want to admit right now this might be me beginning to read just a trilogy instead of sticking to the original plan, because if the first book is good, I'm probably going to roll right into the second. I'm only about 21% in, but I want to check in with you guys. So far, it feels a lot like a mix between the Rejected Mate and the Silent Mate, because it seems like this woman is a submissive. She was just kind of like mated off or married off to this dude who's alpha of another pack, and they're not really having any communication or conversation. She's used to being treated really poorly by her uncle, so like expectations are low, especially because this dude has a bad reputation. But what's really got my attention is she's now opening a wardrobe that has like all clothes in her size, and she's suspicious that it's like secretly this dude had a side chick and they're not really like just bought specifically for her. And then she realizes that all of the clothes are her size and her size is a size 4, and I'm just like,
oh my god, bitch. You're too damn skinny.
I really wish we just hadn't gotten her size and just left it a little bit more vague. For plenty of people, a size 4 is a healthy size and weight, so I don't want to like be shaming anyone, but at the same time, it's also like a very small, petite, slim frame. I don't think it really does a lot to endear most readers to this character who's kind of like timid and shy, and like we're thinking like she's not very pretty, or for whatever reason she hasn't been treated like she's pretty. Objectively, if you are that slim, even if you're very plain-faced, I just can't imagine you're unaware that other people be looking at you and be jealous of you. Maybe that's my own bias coming into play here. This is actually legitimately the first time the whole thing has been a little bit of a turn-off to me, and I guess we'll see if I lean more towards liking her and like supporting her insecurity to becoming a more confident person growth. I know she's been abused, and she's been abused since she's a little girl, so like maybe I should just give her the slack, but also I read these stories all the time and it gets to be really hard to believe this super tiny little petite girl who's so skinny has like exactly the same backstory, the exact same lack of confidence every single time, never is able to like objectively put her head up, look around her, and see that she has some inherent value or skill or talent that maybe has been missing all along in the mix. Also, I have no idea why this alpha is treating her so much like shit. I assume it's because he like can't control himself, which is not a good excuse. If it turns out to be that he's like too angry to face the fact that he has like a abused mate that he needs to help through this transition, he sucks, and I don't think we can redeem him. But also, if he doesn't see that she's like shaking and scared and too timid to talk, and that he needs to like spend some time with her, not cool. Don't think there's redemption. There better legitimately be something really important that's happening right this second that he has to address to keep her and the whole pack safe. Because if it's anything but that, I'ma hate this dude forever. Hey guys, I just came back from a lunch break and realized I was actually 52% of the way through this book. It has been fly. I do really like Eve Bale's writing style. Based off of my previous experience of how she's described submissive wolves before, I would say that this girl is not a submissive wolf, and I think that's going to be the twist reveal, is that her uncle lied to her and she's actually an alpha, and like her suppressing her alphaness and trying to submit is like what's causing the issue internally for her. I'm also gonna go out on a limb and say the reason this alpha is being a bag of dicks is because he's trying to like force her alphaness out and force her to recognize who or what she really is. That said, I have no idea why he's like insisting his pack remain silent about him. Him like always being in conversation with his beta, it sounds like his lands are like under infiltration or attack of some sort. I'm sure we're gonna get more of that, but like his whole plan is stupid and sucks. And I am prepared to hate this particular alpha for life as a result unless something really drastic changes. That said, I'm definitely sucked in. I plan to finish this book, and I'm probably gonna roll into book 2 if this leaves me on a cliffhanger. Alright, as predicted, I just finished book 1 of Cold-Blooded Alpha, and it is a cliffhanger. Oh my goodness. Ethan, can you sit? The writing is good enough that I want to keep reading. Basically, whatever secrets Talis is keeping have come to call. Her uncle has abducted both her and I think maybe her alpha too. I was right. She's not a submissive wolf. She's an alpha wolf. I understand why her uncle was hiding that information for her when she was still part of the pack, because that let him continue to be in control. But I have no idea why he wants to like hold on to her after she's mated this other guy. Does he want their territory, or is he just like a control freak? It is getting awfully late in the day, if you can't tell, and the doggos are excited. So I'm probably gonna have to let you go. I'll download that book and I'll probably be reading that when you next speak to me. Hi, hello, and good morning. As of filming, it is currently October the 9th and we are on day 4 of the Love in the Night Paranormal Readathon. I did run out of time to film yesterday, but I finished book 2 of Cold-Blooded Alpha, which is Hot-Blooded Alpha. It sucked. I'm giving it a 1 star. Like, book 1 had so many things going for it. I was getting only the one perspective of the female lead protagonist. So while I was making a lot of assumptions and guesses about what was going on in this male's mind, I didn't really know. And I personally find there's a lot more tension in a story where you're not getting both sides of this romantic attraction, because it is a romance. It's not a will they, won't they, it's a when. Not 100% being confident about when they're gonna hook up, if the other person reciprocates, is like part of what builds tension and relationship building there. Here in book 2, we get this dude's perspective and he sucks just as much as I thought he did. I'm 100% out on him. I guess I'm happy she's happy, but there should not have been reconciliation here in my personal opinion. This guy made a stupid decision to treat her terribly, to like provoke her into being the real alpha she is. Why he couldn't have just been nice to her and kind to her and like coaxed her into being herself, whatever that is, I still don't fucking know. Maybe they don't think that would have been a fun read for me, and they're wrong. I would have loved to see a ton of moments of him being sweet, a ton of moments where like things are hanging by a thread, this girl is caught in her head, she's expecting one kind of thing to happen, and then something entirely different happens. And getting her reaction to that too. All that would have been like really nice, and I would have enjoyed that in book 1, enjoyed it here in book 2. We wouldn't have even needed this kidnapping subplot. Also, something some of these books try to do, and some of them are included in Eve Bale's catalog, there's a very distinct role for you in society. You're either an alpha or you're submissive, right? And then they try to undermine that by being like, well, only the wolf feels that way. The person is something else entirely. And like these combo of traits is what makes you who you are as a being, and both sides of who you are and what you want need to be respected. Well, if that's the case, then we don't need to come out and say, I'm the alpha. Rah, rah, rah. We can just go ahead and be ourselves and let that speak on its own terms. I probably should have put book 2 down like in the first chapter, because there's like a surprise pregnancy baby. And it's not uncommon for wolf shifter stories to have like a pregnancy baby sort of like fetish kink going on. The reason that they mate and all of that is so that they can produce a ton of babies. But there was nothing in this story specifically hinting to that. In fact, all of the shifter families are relatively small, which like usually in these stories, even if they don't explicitly outright say like the reason that they're mating is to reproduce and have a ton of shifter kids, they showcase a ton of families that have a million little shifter kids in it. So when we didn't get any of those hints, I kind of assumed we weren't going to do like a surprise pregnancy trope here. And that worked for me, because I think a surprise baby is the last thing this protagonist needs. She is not ready to be a mother. She barely knows herself, let alone like introducing somebody else she has to take care of and figure out who she is as a mom. Like, just no. I know people do it. And I know a lot of people think that this is a healing arc for her to have a kid and then to do it right, but I'm not one of those people. The other thing that really bothers me is we do talk a little bit about the male alpha's flaws, and it's that he's kind of like impulsive and just does what he feels like doing, even when he knows it's the wrong choice. Like, he knew being cruel to this damaged girl was the wrong thing to do, but he goes with it and his instinct on it because he feels like surely her alpha will break out this way and then we can really get to know each other. other. Or if he wants to go after these people that have hurt his mate, and instead of staying with her when she's vulnerable, and the pack like talks him down once. I think they talk him down from doing this like twice, really. And then the third time, he just goes after these people. And instead of him just being like in this crazy rage, out of control or whatever, he knows this is probably a trap. He knows this is the wrong move, and he does it anyways, and then he gets trapped. So this is a guy that never fucking learns, continues to have bad consequences, even though he's acknowledging that like his pack was right, he needed to be there for his mate. For some reason, now it doesn't matter if he's there for her or not. She's like healed after like one shower or whatever. I didn't like how the narrative portrayed this, is all I'm saying. More than enough of that. Like I said, we are on day 4 of this Love in the Night paranormal romance. I think it's time I start reading what I own. I'm going to start with Dark Deception, which is a vampire romance, and I read the first chapter of this in a triad chapter. I have a feeling that I might not really want to read this, and if that's the case, I'll put it down, but I want to give it a little bit more of a fair chance. I want to circle back to my triad chapter and actually complete the mission, as it were. Reading update time. I'm only about 9% through this book, but I stopped reading and started scrolling, so that's not a great sign. I think I'm gonna go ahead and DNF it for now. It's probably gonna sit at 3 stars. It's not a bad book per se. There's nothing in it where I'm like, I hate this. I just feel like it's really boring, and it's taking a long time to kind of like get to the point. Like, we did that first chapter I read a while ago about this vampire guy whose father has passed, and now he's like taking over the throne. He met this chica. Here in chapter 2, we got to find out that she's like a spy, I guess, a corporate spy, which is fine as far as it goes, but like for me personally, it's not super interesting, especially because she seems to be like a very unsure of herself corporate spy, like on the cusp of getting fired by her uncle. And I just got out of Hot Blooded Alpha, and in that story there's like a subplot where maybe the uncle has impure thoughts to his niece slash ward, and I just cannot do another story that's even sort of kind of like that again right now. It was not good, and I don't want to go down that path. I'm gonna go over to the next book on my list, which is Fae Touched. Just finished chapter 1 of Fae Touched. I have some concerns from Joe's perspective, and it seems like he is Fae Touched, and that means that he hunts Fae creatures. He lists himself both as Fae Touched, as someone with a familiar, and also as a hunter with a capital H. So I don't love that we have so many like word soup thrown at us all at once with no context. And then he tells us that a lot of hunters hate Fae on principle because they don't have mana, aka a soul. Why not just say they don't have a soul? Like, why are there the 2 words here making that distinction? And then we find out like his familiar doesn't want him to kill the one Fae that he's been led to, who's almost dead. I like dogs enough, and I trust their opinion enough that I'm down to explore that. But then he's like, I'm skeptical that you require a soul to be a good person, which makes a sense. Not all of us, but like some humans do really horrible things with a soul. So it stands to reason that the soul is not the delineator of good and evil. But then this last line is, maybe this Fae woman in front of me, lit by the moonlight, caressing her face, was one of the good ones. Which for starters, yes, all of the lines are that wordy, like single line, too many descriptors, too much stuff jam-packed in an awkward way. One of the good ones has me really worried that number 1, this is some kind of race allegory, and number 2, that is a troubling stereotype within our society as a whole. Like that, oh, well, it's not all people of XYZ minority group. There are some who are the good ones, or like, we're not talking about you, you're one of the good ones. I'm just like, what the fuck are we doing right now? Hopeful it's just a slip up, or we're gonna find out that this dude is racist and the society is racist and he's like pushing back against it in some kind of cringe-inducing way. I'm also sort of curious to look up more about this author and find out more about her background and see like what her perspective is on trying to tell this kind of story. I'm gonna read a little bit more, but I have a little bit of a bad feeling about it. So I think I'm reading a Why Choose romance. It's because I'm only 4% in, and I've got like 4 different perspectives so far. One of them being the girly boo, one of them being that first guy who said that one racist line. And so far he's the nicest one. Like, he's a chef and cooks and stuff. stuff. And then it looks like 2 different hunters. One of them is having the dreams about the girly boo, and the girly boo has already said something about her having 40 mates, and I don't know if she meant that she was destined to have 40 mates or she already has 40 mates. But I am not liking this hunter-fae dynamic. We watch these hunter guys go on a fight. There's a lot of quippy back and forth conversation, and I don't know why, since the hunters are going to kill these fae for surezies. Also, I'm sort of confused about the whole hunter thing because it seems like hunters are all half fae and they have wings, but for some reason they're also killing all the fae, and it's like, what is that about? And I don't like how everybody is calling everybody else a bitch. I wouldn't say it is quite on its face sexist because they are including both men and women as bitches, and I think they just mean it as like a mean thing to say and not like a you're acting like a woman and that's why you suck kind of moment. Come up with something else that's like incendiary or insulting. Let's get a creative word in there. But this conversation where they're like, surrender now and we'll kill you, or don't surrender and we'll chase and we'll kill you. What is this dialogue? I'm gonna try and read a little bit more just to see if I can get a better handle on it, but I'm not enjoying myself and this might be another DNF. Alright, I'm coming back to y'all. I think I'm about 10, maybe 15% through Fade Touch, and it is not for me. I do want to issue a couple corrections. I only had 1, 2, 3 point of view perspectives. One of them's Asha, who's the love interest. The other one's Joe, who is the male, maybe racist hunter. And then Fallon isn't a man, she's a girl, and I guess she's sisters with Asha. But it's like surprise reveal we're sisters. And it started with me just being like, you know what, I don't think I like Asha at all, which makes it hard because I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be her love story. But then like the more we get to know Joe, the more I don't like him. Like he was nice and he was kind, but now it's sort of becoming clear to me that part of the reason he was kind to Asha and like accepting of her is because he thinks she's hot and now he just wants to like wow her forever. It's uncomfortable for people to only be nice to you because they want to have sex with you. And most hunters think that like all fae are evil, but he sees this one and he like questions it, and maybe he was questioning it the whole time, but like this brought it into focus for him. Like that idea that because I'm attracted to you, now you get to have human rights, which I guess is preferable to the I'm attracted to you and you still don't get to have human rights. Neither is good. I really wish paranormal authors would put a little bit more thought into their world building and the context and the relationship they've decided to support and champion before they just sort of dive right into it. All of that said, if this writing had been phenomenal and really engaging, I'd probably still be reading, but it's not. So I'm done with this one. I'm not sure where I'm going from here. I'm gonna sort of like scroll through the books on the docket and pick something out. I'm at about 20% in on Night Myst by Yasmine Galenorn. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I've heard a lot about this author before and I was actually pretty excited to get into this one, and I am loving it so far. It's really exciting. It's got like a lot of action and moving pieces, and I think it might be throwing like a little bit more than is ideal at me, but not so much that I can't keep up and like remain engaged and feel like there's a level of mystery and wonder in this world. What I mean is sometimes I feel like maybe there was a series before this one I should have read first. It is like a little bit of a delicate balance because you want your world to feel lived in and like things have gone on before this, and it's not like this everything was just created for the story we're reading right this second, but you also don't want to make it seem like whatever happened before now is the more interesting story. Waffle back and forth while reading whether or not this one is doing that successfully, but the truth is I am really interested in what's going on right this second, so I think that helps. The only downside I could say for it so far is while there is a like star-crossed lovers romantic element between two of the characters, it's definitely not going to be the main plot point here, and I'm not actually confident that this is a paranormal romance, although it's definitely a paranormal read. I'm still reading it for the Love in the Night Paranormal Readathon, and I guess I'm just gonna hope that the romantic element comes through, and if not, then it's a book I read this week and I'm vlogging it anyways. Hey guys, it's been a minute since I've posted, and that's because it hasn't really been good for me filming wise. Friday I did finish reading that Yasmine Galenorn book and I loved it, but it's probably more urban fantasy than it is romance, although I suspect there might be a romance coming in the future. It's kind of ironic that so far everything I've really enjoyed has been like barely paranormal romance or like just paranormal, but I'm fine with it. I really did like that one. I started reading another book book that I can't remember, and I'll put the picture here, and really hated it. It has the werewolves underground and they're treating this girl really badly, and also she's like so loud and outspoken when that wouldn't make sense given what's going on in her life and her situation. So I DNF that. And now I'm reading Fated to the Wolf Prince, and I'm really liking it so far because it's kind of funny. Like, we've got this trio of women who kind of like are supporting each other, girls having a good time, that kind of thing. They're all doing some kind of science, and the alpha has decreed that they're all going to have to come for like a mate matching ceremony, and that's sort of like pissing them off. Especially this one girl who was in a romantic relationship with a guy who's left her because he found his true mate, and true mates trump everything, including, I guess, the relationship the two of them were in, which is a unique scenario, even though I know she's a side character and this isn't going to be the main focal point. Usually in these things, we don't find out what happens to people who hook up when they're not true mates. So I am looking forward to getting a little bit more detail on that and to see where things go and whether or not she finds her true mate and maybe she's like a spin-off or whatever. Also kind of interesting because they keep saying that the main goal here is for the Alpha Prince to find someone. I guess we're gonna see how that goes too, but I just want to update you all because so far this has been a pretty interesting one, and I actually have things to say and I'm not like forcing myself to stop at the 25% mark or whatever. I'm in chapter 2 and it's from Kane's point of view, who I assume is going to be our main love interest, and he doesn't want to get mated, which makes sense because, you know, you just don't want to when you're that young. But then he says offhandedly that more shifter wolves die in pregnancy than any war combined, and I'm like, why has the research not been put in to make pregnancy more safe? It doesn't seem like you guys have a problem with mating in couples, it seems like you have a problem with pregnancy and childcare, so maybe deal with that. Hey guys, it's Monday and it is officially the end of the Paranormal Love in the Night readathon. I am a little bit exhausted because I was literally up till midnight last night trying to finish the last series I was doing, Fated to the Wolf Prince. I did 100% complete books 1 and 2 and really enjoyed them. And I'm about 75% through book 3. I'm not liking book 3 as much as I liked 1 and 2. My favorite thing about these books are the 3 female characters are best friends who come from a smaller pack in Texas, and they keep their friendship, their loyalty, their dedication to one another together no matter what's threatening them or what's going on in their romantic lives. And I really like having a supportive friend group. I also like that they're well matched, they balance each other, they each have purpose. So for me, just having that kind of relationship within the story redeems a lot of things that otherwise would not fly. For example, book 2 is a filler book entirely. Like, the only person I care about in this series is Lee and her story. She's got something really juicy going on that I won't spoil. And instead of rolling right into that, we go into Shay's story. I would have told you before this book that Shay is the least interesting of this trio, but she actually has a really compelling, interesting backstory. They do a couple of things with her I don't like that I won't spoil. And the story does eventually go in a weird way that involves like some racism, and it has eugenics just off the top because omegas are illegal and hunted and killed at birth. And all that is more than enough generally for me to put a series down, but I really liked this regardless because of the writing style, because of the relationship building. Enough meet there character-wise and character relationship development-wise that it kept me going, even though I don't like Dirge at all, and especially don't like him for Shay. I enjoyed seeing their relationship come together because I liked learning more about Shay, and I also liked that Shay was the one who saved the feral wolf here. We didn't just have the girl who's like the Omega do all the saving and everyone's always a support character. Gives her a place in the group, gives her a certain set of powers and abilities, but also makes everyone else have a place and a use as well, so I liked that. Overall, I would say that this particular Love in the Night paranormal romance was not as successful for me in finding bangers as other ones have been. I think my first one last year I did the best on, and then I was really proud this past spring when I finished so much of Claire Kent's series up. This one, the stuff I liked the most was not technically paranormal fantasy, although I am still counting it. But on the other side, I did dedicate time to reading, and I spent a lot of time with my doggos. I got to spend some great time outside. I got a lot of other stuff done in my work week, and it's always fun to try out new books. Like, something I personally have been working on a lot this year is trying things and then backing out of them. Like, a lot of times once I open a book and start reading it, I feel pressured to continue. And because I feel pressured to finish things I have committed to, a lot of times I don't do things. Like, I don't start reading books because I get partially through and I don't like it, and then I just have to finish it. I'm gonna have a bad time. Taking little steps like this, like the paranormal romance, committing to the week, and just dropping books as they're not appealing, and knowing eventually I'm gonna find the thing that works for me and I am gonna have a good time. I just need to keep spinning through till I find what that thing is reassuring and like helpful in and of its own way. We want to thank the hosts of the Paranormal Love in the Night Readathon. That's gonna be Heather at Hia Booktubes, Izzy from Happy for Now, Novelty Corner, Paperbacks and Planners, and Meowth Vader. Everyone's link is going to be in the bio. If I forgot anyone by accident, I'm really, really sorry. Ironically, this is a week where if I had actually played the bingo board, I think I might have won. But I just like to do mood reading on a theme, which is part of what I like about this specific readathon, is there are a lot of people who mood read and all you have to do is find a paranormal romance for it to count. Or even I see people counting stuff that is not strictly paranormal romance, but they're like close enough and going for it. And I like that sort of relaxed nature to the readathon and to just like finding new things to enjoy. If you came along with me on this vlog, I know it was a long one and I want to thank you so much for watching. If you wanted to check out other paranormal reads I've done, you can always check out my monthly reading list, or even better, check out other paranormal readathon vlogs I've done in the past over here. I hope you guys are all having a great October month, and as always, keep reading.